Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and if you're a guitar player who's looking to make some more money, then listen very closely to what I'm about to tell you. If you're a guitar player, or any other kind of musician for that matter, or if you know a musician who wants to make some more money without having to tour or go on the road, or put up with any of the other BS musicians normally have to deal with, then you need to download this new special report about how to make a small fortune by licensing your music. And by licensing music, I mean getting your music inserted into movies, television shows, and commercials. The report is less than 20 pages long, and it was written by Mike Elsner, who I interviewed in episode number 167 of this show. Mike's been doing this for over 14 years, and he's had over 2,000 songs licensed at this point in time. That means he's getting paid to license almost 150 songs per year. Now, keep in mind, most successful career musicians don't get paid for 150 songs in total over a 30 or 40-year career. Yet, Mike's getting paid for this on an annual basis. And the cool thing about this business is that you can run it from your own home studio, and you'll never have to deal with ivory tower record label executives telling you what to play and how to play it, and no shady managers or unethical business people telling you what to do either. So download Mike's free ebook on the 4-step plan to licensing success right now. Just go to everyonelovesguitar.com/Mike. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/Mike, M-I-K-E. Let me know how you like the book, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar. My next guest really needs no introduction. I'm here with Bruce Kulick, and to become successful as a guitar player is incredible, but to become successful and remain relevant for close to 40 years is like almost statistically impossible, and Bruce has worked his ass off to do that. And let me tell you a little bit about him in case you don't know about his entire career. I'm sure you've heard of bits and pieces or large parts of his career, but I want to round out the whole thing for you. He's been playing professionally since 1975, first gaining notoriety as a member of the touring band for Meatloaf's classic Bat Outta Hell album in 1977, playing dual guitars with his brother Bob. Shortly after that, Bruce formed the band Blackjack with then aspiring singer Michael Bolton. After releasing 2 albums, Blackjack folded. Over the next few years, Bruce played with the Good Rats, including appearing on the album Great American Music and opening for Ozzy Osbourne. When his stint with the Good Rats was over, Kulick considered joining Billy Squier's band after playing on Squier's debut Tale of the Tape. That didn't materialize. Instead, he was asked to join Kiss, where he remained as their lead guitarist for 12 years, joining the band for the Animalized tour in 1984 and continuing with the band until the 1996 reunion tour. Bruce performed around the world with Kiss, won many platinum and gold awards, and is heavily featured on Kissology 2 and 3, which is the band's DVD spanning their historic 35-year career. The amazing relationship he still has with the Kiss Army is a true testament to his performing and writing abilities that he shared with this iconic group. After leaving Kiss, Bruce continued his musical development by forming Union with John Corabi in 1997. Union released 3 albums between 1998 and 2000, and at that point, Bruce and John teamed up with Eric Singer and formed the Eric Singer Project, or ESP, and they released an album in 1998. Bruce also maintained his connection to Kiss, contributing to Psycho Circus, the Detroit Rock City soundtrack, and both of the solo efforts from Gene and Paul. In early 2001, Bruce released his own debut solo album, Audio Dog, which was followed in 2003 by Transformer. And in February of 2010, Bruce released his 3rd solo album, BK3. That metal show called BK3 one of the top 50 albums of 2010. In 2001, after receiving a personal invitation from drummer Don Brewer, Bruce joined one of the greatest rock and roll bands in the world, Grand Funk Railroad. And he's still touring with Grand Funk, and he's currently in his 16th year as their lead guitarist. He's also heavily involved with the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, and he enjoys jamming and sharing his experience with campers as a counselor. Currently, Bruce is continuing his work in Grand Funk as the lead guitarist and keeps busy between Grand Funk Railroad shows and many other music projects, including traveling outside the U.S. to perform. And he's from the other side of the D train than I am. Man, thank you so much for coming on the show, Bruce. I appreciate your time.
Well, thanks, Craig. Wow. You had my whole resume down. Obviously, there was a couple other little side trips with that, but don't worry. I'm very pleased with your overview who I am and what I've done. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. You were 22, I guess, in 75 when you started playing professionally. What were you doing at that time before that?
Well, as soon as the guitar got in my hand when I was probably about 10 years old, it was quite enjoyable. I tend to have had a natural ability, and that made it something. I wasn't athletic, you know what I mean? Some of the things that a young kid's going to do. Growing up at the right time, meaning the whole British invasion was starting in '64 with the Beatles, and we all know what that kind of what it created, and it was such a interesting period of the history of civilization and our culture, and that's why the Beatles is still relevant, et cetera, et cetera. And so is guitar, even though, of course, there's many debates on, the kind of retail-wise how it's doing or how much current music you hear with guitar in it. But aside from that, I think the guitar is an iconic instrument. The music that I love and that I seem to have been able to make my own in as a career is still very relevant. In many ways, and for that, I'm very grateful. So I started to get busy working with local guys in my neighborhood. I put out a record about 3 years ago from the first tapes of the very first original band I had, which we didn't even have a name, but I called it KKB. It was just a limited run of a CD when I was able to finally, the guy Mike, who was the principal writer and bassist, we were trying to be American Cream, because Cream, Jack Bruce, and Ginger Baker, Eric Clapton, are huge heroes of mine, and Mike as well. And then we wound up. Anyway, I was able to remix some of it, and we did a new song, and I put that out. But that showed, when I listened to that, which we were able to record that in '74, showed. So I was, already 21. 21. I have a December birthday, so it really did show that I had a sense of what kind of player I would become, and I was pretty excited about that. Obviously, that I could still hear who I am in that playing, very much so. And from there it just never stopped. But remarkably, I remember friends saying so what are you going to do in college? You should go to music school. So I did actually. I went to Queens College, did have a music department for a year and a half, but then I got pulled away, kind of getting offers to, even though back then middle '70s was disco was very big. So I actually toured with a guy who had a hit called George McRae. He had a hit called Rock Me Baby.
Yeah,
Rock Me Baby,
Yeah.
And there I was traveling to Canada first, and then I was off to Europe because he was a star in Germany, and we played everywhere in Germany for 2 months, and he won the equivalent of a Grammy, or it might have been only a month there, but then we went to Spain and we went to France, and what an amazing journey for me and my SG. It was incredible. And a lot of the other players were really good. I got exposed to some of the more kind of fusion was popular then, so I was attracted to listening to other things, even though I couldn't really play that. I really did enjoy things like Weather Report and bands like that, and Mahavishnu Orchestra. So I kind of got a very, very well-rounded kind of approach to a lot of the music stuff that was going on, besides, the kind of more British rock, classic rock. So, and then it just, one thing led to another. It was really kind of amazing that being, kind of reasonable about it and professional about it, since I wasn't always thinking of myself as the solo artist, guys like Dave Grohl are pretty unique. You go from being a drummer in Nirvana, and then, of course, you're a lead singer, songwriter, guitarist. That's not the norm, okay? But my goal was always to be the best, guitarist I could be in whatever band I was. And I seemed to, every opportunity that came up, I was fortunate enough to, provide what was necessary. And I learned from every experience. I bumped into things plenty of times, But all those other things that I did prior to 1984, when I got the call for the big gig, which is KISS, they all helped me kind of figure out how to do something like that, because it's not for everybody. It's hard to know how to work with people. It's hard to know how to present yourself professionally and do the job that's needed in that situation. And I think a lot of that's the testament to I know a lot of really, really talented people, but some of them don't fit into things, But I think that part of my saving grace was that I had enough talent. But what maybe even overshadows that is me understanding how I could best apply what I'm capable of to the situation in the right way. And I think a lot of players don't get that, So I just had a good balance of that.
Where did you learn that? Like you said, a lot of, being able to hang properly and know how to apply what you've done in any given situation. We kind of had a little back conversation before the call started about that, but where did you learn that from on your end?
I think some of it's by nature and my personality. I'm the second, born in the family. My brother Bob is the first son, and he views things differently from me, and he knows that. We have lots of chats about things, and even though we've been doing some really super exciting things recently, but I'm not sure. But I was always very humble. I know that, and I was always very much grounded with, just being grateful that I had talent and that people wanted to hear me. I remember very early on working in the first dance bands and high school groups, and someone would come up to me and just say like, "Oh, I really enjoy your guitar playing, and you're going to go places." I remember this one heavy girl who just had a crush on me, but the thing she said to me, I'll never forget. She goes like, "You're gonna be known. You're gonna have a career playing guitar. You know that, right?" You know what I mean? And I was just like, I didn't believe it then. You know what I mean? I really didn't. I liked seeing it, hearing it rather, and it meant a lot to me, a lot better than just her maybe having a girl guy crush on me.
Sure.
But the same thing when we had remember our band was auditioning like for some agent, and the group was good. There was a lot of talented guys, just doing cover stuff of the top 40 hits back in the 70s. And this agent came up to me, you're going to be, believe me, I wasn't lighting my hair on fire or doing hammer-ons, okay? I wasn't showboating at all. But he got some sense that I would do something. So, but I still, even then, I didn't take that as like, oh, my ego didn't fit in the room anymore. But I'm not really sure. I do think people need a personality. We've lost so many, the 27, all those, famous, musicians who died at 27, and even, the actors that you lose, a Robin Williams to depression, and insane, just the past year, who would think Chris Cornell, would be that bummed out, about life, to take his own life, and now, even Prince on too many pills. I certainly, I'm not trying to say I'm perfect, but I think I've always had a certain balance of whatever, that I get how this business can bring out very, very bad traits in people. But I guess the best word would be just I had a certain balance in my own life and the respectability of things, that I was able to keep it in perspective. And I think everybody needs to. You really do need to be grounded. Have your dreams and shoot for the stars, but you also need to know, reality, and not to get it too distorted, because I think that can make you say absolutely the wrong thing in that audition, and then you don't get the gig, but you could have been perfect for the gig. Same.
A guy told me a long time ago, and I've kind of found this to be true. He goes, money doesn't change you. It makes you it brings out more of what you are. And so like if you're a good person and now you can become successful, you're, an even better person because you have a couple of bucks and you can do some constructive things with it.
I think that's true.
Yeah, I do too. I've noticed. And if you're an asshole.
The assholes that get a lot of money, you always read about them losing all their money.
Yeah, makes you more of that.
They didn't really, they have those personality traits, whatever that is. Again, the psychology of an artist, I don't begin to think that I'm any expert, but it is a very dangerous thing. And that's why you see so many stars just fall from grace so easily. And I think with the way people enjoy music now and the internet and everything being, everything being a soundbite, a tweet, and everything from everything in life, because if it's in politics, it's in everything. So I think it's even a more dangerous time. And that's why I don't care if guitar sales are down. I don't care if I would love everyone to want to play guitar and buy a guitar and enjoy guitar, but all I know is people want to hear classic rock. People still, enjoy, music that is based on my, my passion, and I'm going to just stay the course, and I'm so proud of, some of my accomplishments, and I want to keep celebrating them with my fan base, and I've, in the past, especially in the past couple of years, I've recognized that there's a appetite for it from them, you know what I mean? So I want to do it, and I want to do it in a very, fun way and in a very proud way. I don't want to just put things out just to make money. I want to put out quality things that mean something to me, and I want to just continue to embrace them. So that's my goal.
You can't stick around as long as you've done at the level you've done if you just putting garbage out there. It doesn't not.
Yeah, and that's true.
It's just not possible.
But I also realize a lot of people have told me I could do more. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to tell you I want to do a Bruce Kulick bobblehead. Okay, I get it, but I'm not saying I want to do it.
You played with Kiss for 12 years, which I think is longer than any other non-founding member.
No, Tommy and Eric are really gotten a lot of years now. Okay. But Eric, almost 20 years, I think. I heard Paul talking about it recently.
Okay.
And Tommy's probably 15 years already. But for me to be a consecutive 12 years is pretty cool, though Tommy may be the next one. Because with Eric, he had the years in my era, and then he was in. Then he was out just for a little while, and now, of course, he's been the drummer and doing a great job. So, I don't think any of that matters. I think what matters is that in my tenure, that some very, very cool stuff happened. Everyone's got their own opinion about each album, and each tour, and that's the beauty of it. The fact that a lot of them were very different in some ways, from Asylum to Crazy Nights to Hot in the Shade to Revenge, with some of the other things thrown in, and then Unplugged, the Live 3, a compilation record, various tours and all that. It's really it's a pretty good body of work that is not really represented by them, because once they went in makeup and stayed in makeup, it's the kind of focus has been on makeup, which is an incredible period. I mean, of course, my era of Kiss dabbled in it. Live 3 shows a good balance of the songs, and most of the tours did, and Unplugged did it certainly. But I just love that I kind of, in a simple way, I could just say I wave the flag of my era, and that's a very well-loved era. Okay.
Oh. What were your 3 biggest takeaways, would you say, from your experience working with those guys? And when I say takeaways, could be business, entertaining, playing, what would you say?
Well, certainly in the sense of entertaining, I mean, my role wasn't to try to outdo Paul and Gene, which I just couldn't do on stage. I can't play the guitar and perform like those guys, okay? Paul has the liberty of running around because there's always been another guitarist, kind of keeping it straight ahead, so he can take his hand off the guitar and do crazy things and perform. And he's the ultimate, front man. We all know that. And Gene, I mean, come on, he becomes the demon bassist, even without the makeup. I thought, he commands the stage, and he entertains larger than life, like his movie passions of the horror, genre. I get how he has all these he's adapted and fits so well with these larger than life kind of physical things, and he taught me these things. Okay, there's no doubt what I learned from both of them. In the sense, Gene actually walked me through Animalized tour. I didn't do a solo. I was the new guy, just and that was like a whole year of transformation for the band. And then by Asylum, it was time for me to do a tour. So there was Gene, at one of the rehearsal places, and we talked about, all right, here's how I think you could do this. You know what I mean? And then without his instruction, I would just stand out there like very frightened, you know what I mean? And instead, I had a whole script, like a play, as to like where on the stage I should be, what I could do, how to play to the crowd, offer the guitar to the gods, et cetera, et cetera. And man, well, first of all, look, there are other bands that you could have joined. You wouldn't have been taught that, and wouldn't have been a part of the show. Let's say I was in Deep Purple, okay? That's not a band that you do that, But Kiss was a band that everything was, even without the makeup, larger than life and very big on stage with a huge production. So I needed to learn all that. So that's one that I'm very grateful. I got boot camp performing from Gene and Paul. Absolutely. Yeah. Of course, I got a lot of information as to, by the time I was working with them, they already went through the ringer with the record companies and the managers and being ripped off and being misguided. And I saw them, kind of help, really be hands-on about their business. I'm not saying that they always maybe did what I liked, or that they maybe did what they really even wanted to do, but the fact that they always worked so hard on protecting their image, themselves, the brand and everything was a real fascinating thing for me to experience. Okay, so I took a lot of what I felt was instructive for me, or what I feel that I understand from that, and of course the things that were not positive for me, I understood it. You know what I mean, and that's how you learn business, right? Being in the music business means you need to get the big picture of how the commerce of side of being a musician in a famous band is. So I really, if I'm sounding like any of it was negative, it wasn't. Okay,
No, you're not sounding like that at all. No, in fact,
okay.
I want to make a point there, because I think you said something that I think was really important, and I don't want to slough over it. You said they put a lot of thought into how they wanted to portray and protect their brand, and I think it's important that people understand that, because things don't randomly work out. I mean, once in a while they might, but for the most part, every decision that you're making, it's got to be very deliberate. And if you're not going to take, it's like anything else. If you don't pay attention to your relationship, it ain't going to work. You don't pay attention to your business, it ain't going to work. You don't pay attention to your guitar playing, it's not going to work.
Right.
It's the same thing. If you don't pay attention.
And I saw it on every level, and there'll be something like, the one thing that just popped in my head, because the vault that Gene put out is similar to History, which of course was, Gene and Paul worked really hard on, especially Gene, because he's such a, he archives everything, okay, to his advantage, of course, and mine, actually. I wound up with 9 co-writes on the vault thing. I think it was 9, but I remember I suggested, I had a great photo of me with Meatloaf and my brother and with those guys, because we were all on a bill in the '84. And because it was like another artist in the picture, he didn't want to use it, and I was kind of like, well, wait a minute, but we're all there, So for him, the way he wants to look at the brand is not to use something like that, okay? And I had to respect that, though I didn't really understand it. So you see what I mean? Everyone, they'll have their point of view of how they see their brand, and look, they're great songwriters, and what they put together is iconic and will never be forgotten. 50 years from now, people will still know what Kiss was about, which is remarkable, of course. But again, I did learn certain, elements that you could only learn if you were around it all the time, So that was good. So, and then a third thing I would have gotten out of them was, they were like totally professional in the studio, hardworking, totally professional as to how to tour and make it work. You know what I mean? If that meant adjusting things, the Asylum tour didn't sell as well as it should have, I feel. So, you try stage things and they don't work out, and you got to, rethink. So, things like that. And you can do it like while you're out there, you can change, you got to be adaptable, and even a big band with massive amounts of gear and multiple trucks needs to adjust, shall I say, And then in the studio, you make the best of whatever you can. I mean, those were the golden days when people really went into a recording studio, 2-inch tape, the whole thing, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And, which was fun. obviously, through those years, you saw the progress of electronic gear for recording. But, that first album, Asylum, they ping-ponged me, meaning like, well, a Gene song, Gene wants to work with me. Paul doesn't really have to come in, even though, of course, he's going to, add his 2 cents at some point and listen to it and suggest things if needed. If not, it's just Gene works with me. So I remember one time working like 21 days in a row, because they kept, trading off on me. And I was just happy to be there. There I am, an electric lady. I mean, I'm like... Oh,
down in the village there.
Yeah.
I'm so cool.
Hendrix's studio. Would I have liked a day off? Probably. But you get what I mean.
Yeah,
it's like an incredible experience. Yeah. But there I was, and that's the way they were. They were like, well, you do a lockout for a month, you got to keep going,
Yeah.
So very, very, how they approached doing the recording and the tours, very methodical, very reasonable. These guys, even though they always reached for the stars, and many times, certainly were had to hit a home run with it. They thought big, but they were always aware of the logistics and the realities of it. You see?
Yeah, and again, that ties into what you said prior, as far as this is very deliberate behavior, thinking about this, and being professional and doing things a certain way. It's not random. I think in general, one of the things I've in doing these as a business guy and coming into this initially, it's been amazing to see the parallels between music like any other business. There's certain traits and characteristics that if you don't have them, you're not going to succeed, regardless of your talent level.
Right. That's what I love. I mean, I've done the rock and roll fantasy camp for many, many years. It's been a little harder lately because Grand Funk's been working a lot. So I can't be there, but when I'm a counselor, okay, so you get a random group of people who are at all levels, which is such a great experience for them, because the special guest is someone that they really want to meet, but they're going to get into my boot camp, and I'm sizing them all up, and then I'm telling them what I expect from them, because I got to figure out, well, this guy would never be capable of playing a solo, but I know what he can play in that song. And then I don't like his pedal. Oh, that guitar is going to be problematic. I got to get that set up properly. And
lots of moving parts.
Yeah, the reason why I'm telling you is that I had some of these very successful in their careers, from presidents of companies to doctors and surgeons and lawyers, and tell me how they're blown away when I would come in and size it all up. Well, look, that's my world. How to do a band. Okay, so, and they probably don't have a lot of that if they get together with people. Sometimes it's just, who knows? It could be everyone's running amok, or there's no leader. But if I'm the leader and I jump in there, I know exactly what to tell them what to do. And they were very impressed. And that actually, you can't imagine how empowering that was for me, because I have this, like, I think surgeons play God, you know what I mean? So I have so much respect for them, I think that presence of associations, presence of companies and these corporate people, that's like mysterious to me, because, hey, I'd love to run a corporation. I think I'd be damn good at it, but I'm saying that's not really part of my resume.
Part of your world.
But, yeah. But if I have those guys see what I'm doing, being on their kind of like radar, and that they get that the way I did that was the equivalent to someone doing surgery for somebody, it's how methodical it was, and how it absolutely got the result needed. That was one of the biggest affirmations of my abilities. It's kind of funny to hear it, of course, from doctors and executives rather than Gene and Paul, or a fan. There's no fan that's really going to make me convinced I'm a really good player. Okay, that's like a shortcoming from me, because you can't listen to the fans totally. Okay,
but you can't listen to any. I don't think anybody. You got to believe in you, whatever you're doing, and whether you're talking about how you play guitar, or how you manage your household, or whatever. If you don't think you're good at it, or if you're,
it's good to hear it from your peers, though.
Yes,
people who live what you do.
Right.
I performed with my wife once she's a fine singer, and we did our our interesting version of a standard, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And she loves that song. She's got that range of Judy Garland and all. And it was very impromptu at one of the fantasy camps, actually. And Ronnie Montrose was there. This is a few years before he passed away. And I was obviously very excited to do a camp with him and all. And you know, I did take some jazz lessons when I was younger, so I figured out how to do certain things. I'm not a jazz player. I have aspirations, but I'm just not. But to have like him and a few of the other counselors and all come up to me and go like, well, first of all, your wife was incredible. That was amazing. But like, where'd you learn those chords, man? You know what I mean? You know, because they're not chords that I would ever use in a classic rock, you know, performance. Although if you listen to the breakdown and God Gave Rock and Roll to You, there's actually some very interesting chords in there, major sevenths and suspensions and 11ths and all that kind of stuff, which is not very rock and roll, but that felt good. So, you know, I have to admit that there's times when you certainly want the support of your peers, you know, even though you can't define yourself completely from that either, like you said.
Yeah. Life's tough, man. You got all these shit you got to figure out, isn't it?
Yep.
Grand Funk, you're like a little older than me, but we both grew up listening to Grand Funk, man. Was it really, like, how did it feel the first time you played with them as far as playing all those songs that you probably, you know?
Well, first I get this random, like, email from Don Brewer, and I didn't believe it. I thought it was like some internet troll just, you know, screwing with me. And I said, you know, can we speak, you know? And then I had a phone call with him. At the time, I was moving my parents from New York City to Los Angeles because it would be easier for me as they were getting older, of course.
Sure.
And we had a good conversation. I had some history with him from the fact that he toured a lot with Bob Seger, and Michael Bolton and I. It's Michael's birthday today, actually, the day we're doing this, and I just posted something about that. But I met you know, Don then on that tour when we had some dates opening for Bob Seger. And so long story short, I was on the short list, and then they flew me up to Michigan, even though Don lives in Florida for many years, but Mel's up there. And I got to meet the singer that they already knew they would be using for this new version of the band, this guy Max Carl, tremendous singer. I was very nervous. I was very excited about the offer, and I knew, well, look, like Kiss, I was able to, you know, fit in, and I was, you know, Ace, of course, was big shoes to fill in for, even though, you know, we know that I replaced Mark St. John, and there was, you know, Vinny's, you know, a couple of years there. But, you know, with Grand Funk, they never really changed, you know, their guitar situation. So Max would sing, sometimes play guitar or keyboard when needed, and we'd get a keyboard player, but I'd be the lead player, right? And I was very, I was nervous. I mean, I knew that the music that they were known for wasn't just Inside Looking Out, which was also, in my opinion, kind of like, you know, a bit of a heavy metal version of a Cream type thing, American style.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a little different. I know that Mark, who I have a lot of respect for, and we've actually done some work at the Fantasy Camp together, he used to approach guitars, not the loud Marshall. He wanted the clean sound and then put on the strange, you know, electro-harmonics pedal or whatever, you know, fuzz box he had in the day, which wasn't my sound. But Don's, when Don asked me to learn the stuff, it was going to be from the more recent live record called Bosnia, when they did this charity concert in the Greek Theater where Slash came and Peter Frampton and a lot of people, and they had an orchestra. It was a pretty exciting event. I remember seeing them on TV when they did something during that era too, and that was kind of the end of that, you know, Grand Funk reunion time. So I listened to Bosnia, where Mark had a much more martially tone, and I think Ron Nevison was involved, and he was connected with Kiss. So I was excited to learn the songs. It was a challenge. You know, Mark actually was a, you know, real good rock player. Just his tone was way different than what I, you know, used to, you know, kind of do. You know, and certainly they weren't asking me to be the Kiss-style guitarist in Grand Funk, but they, you know, Don knew I was versatile enough because of my years with Michael Bolton and other things that he was aware of that I did, that I could fit in. So, again, a situation where you had to be professional, know your role, And the funny side story to this is Max Carl, the singer, who had been in lots of different bands, 38 Special, had solo things for many years, and Jack Mack and the Heart Attack was a very big Los Angeles band with horns and everything. He was very suspect to me. He was like, who's this rock guy? Because he went on the internet, in 2099, and he sees some picture with like half-naked girls with John Corabi from the Union band that I had with John. And he's like, who's this guy? I don't know. And if he looked at any Kiss pictures, he might have been like, I don't know. Do I want to work with this guy? So he innocently like invited me out to, his home where, his family was going to have like Thanksgiving or something. And I went, and all I'm talking about is like, oh, my parents, I'm having all these issues. I got to get them proper care. And he saw like I was nothing like
nothing like the rock and roll. Exactly. Naked women. Yeah. That's funny.
I passed the test. I mean, I think Don knew that already, but Max was going to have an equal say as to who he had to possibly live with for the next decade or two. And can you believe it's like this is our 18th year? That's insane.
Well, that's what I was going to say, man. There's something that to have the longevity you do in the these high profile slots. You to me that. Like I look at someone like that, you're like you've got to be a stable dude. You can't be flaky, and you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I hate flaky. Oh my God.
No, I do.
I know you're not flaky either.
No,
but just saying, right? You have to be on your game. You got to be Thursday. Pro. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what's great about Don is very professional. For our band, if you're 10 minutes early, you're actually late, okay? It's like that. And I've seen this with other artists. I did a corporate camp with Todd Rundgren, and his head was exploding when one of his players, like, came down, like, 2 minutes after the call time, you know what I mean? So, we're not the only band that wants to respect each other's time, and we all get along, and we get the big picture. We know we're blessed to be able to perform, all of us are in our 50s, 60s. Don is going to be 70. So it's incredible to do this. And to do something you love and entertain people. And you can see it whenever you see any video of us on stage, where we're really, really having a great time.
What a great band! What some great songs! I mean, just phenomenal songs, just iconic songs there, man. I'm happy that you got that gig. It's nice.
Yeah, me too. I mean, again, it doesn't translate for all my Kiss fans. I'm always kind of reminding them, like, you do know this band, trust me, okay? You know what I mean? Like I ran into Alex Van Halen at the Admirals Club touring, and he'd be like, what are you doing? Even Michael Anthony. I think that was when they were both working together. And I'm with Grand Funk, and they were like freaking going crazy. You know what I mean?
It's a great band, man.
Saying, right?
Yeah, come on, man. That's that's the soundtrack of my youth. Are you kidding me? That's like, partying, smoking cigarettes. First time you drank beer, Grand Funk was on. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, sadly, though, I think the band, because there were many years they didn't stay current. You see, that's one thing Gene and Paul never stopped.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ace and Peter aren't there. Whoever, they just kept it going.
Right.
And so there's a band with many years of history. Now, once you do music stays relevant and alive. If it's, Grand Funk had some incredible hits. So, but they're not as well known as, with too many times we run into situations where we go like, well, I'm with Grand Funk. I used to play with Kiss. I'll get a reaction one way or the other. Of course, everyone's heard of Kiss.
Right.
There's no one that hasn't heard of Kiss.
Right.
But Grand Funk, I may have to sing some kind of wonderful to them, or say,
yeah,
we're an American, and that's okay. I don't care, if they don't completely recognize that name. Not everybody knows classic rock. And then there's the guys that I meet that are just like my favorite band in the whole world. I listen to the live record every day. I get that. So,
they're a great band, man. Amazing band.
Yeah, it's been a good gig. Good gig for me.
You mentioned Todd. Were you playing with Chasm with Meatloaf?
No, the original Meatloaf band had Steve Buslow is the guy's name. Okay, who actually did some work with Michael Bolton too, oddly enough. and helped us out in the studio, even though the band I had with Michael had Jimmy Haslip, which was a great player. But Chasm worked with him later on, and I believe Chasm may have been the bassist on the Bat Out of Hell record itself.
He was. Yeah.
And I've worked a little bit with Chasm with the Fantasy Camp as well.
Okay.
Tremendous guy, great singer, player,
Cool
I remember
dude.
for a while he was with Blue Oyster Cult, too,
Yes.
which was like my gig, So, no, great guy. And I saw that in your pre-interview notes. No, what's great, though, that everybody should know about the Meatloaf thing, because, again, a lot of my fans don't know that I work with Meatloaf. And Meatloaf, I just mailed my brother this article. I didn't have time to scan it, but Rolling Stone did a big article with Meat, and his health is pretty bad, and he can't tour, he can't do anything right now, and that's terrible because the guy is larger than life.
Yeah.
He's one of a kind, and as much as my 77, 78 tour with him was, a lot of it was almost a scar in my mind because it was just so intense and crazy. That was an incredible time. I mean, there I am on Saturday Night Live with them, and that's John Belushi and Gilda Radner. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's the time. That's how we grew up. That was revolutionary to us.
Sure.
Going
from clubs, getting booed off the stage, opening for Cheap Trick, to selling out arenas, to selling out, giant places, and that year of gigs with him was incredible. And that album is one of the biggest albums of all time.
Yeah.
What's great is that the reissue of it in many versions since like the 90s has 2 live tracks, and that's my brother Bob and myself on lead guitar on the intro Bolero thing and Bat Out of Hell. And that's me playing all those Todd Rundgren solos, which are very hard, okay? And, so anyway, a lot of my fans didn't realize that I had that experience, and that was very eye-opening, let me tell you. It was quite exciting, and I still fantasize sometimes that I could do something with Meat. My brother and I have talked about that. Reading that article made me very sad and realize that, the chances of it ever happening. But still, really, really something very, very proud, something I'm very proud of. And the fact that you can hear that, it's on iTunes, and on the CD. So there it is.
Yeah, I mean, you've done some, and I hope I'm not blowing smoke. You've done some real, top class shit, man. First class stuff, So,
Thank you. But you got to remember, I think I know now why I'm so humble. My wonderful grandfather, okay, immigrant, came to America in like 1905 as like a, whatever, young boy. And he'd come over. He owned a dry cleaning business in the Bronx, and used to do the Yankees, like uniforms, which was kind of...
That's so cool.
Right. And he was wonderful. I always loved him. He passed away in '88 when I was on tour with Kiss in Japan. But he would come into the house. This is after my brother and I got our gold records for playing with Meatloaf. He looks on the wall in our bedroom because we were still living at home. Why get places when you're busy touring the world?
Yeah, sure.
And he goes, all right, yeah, that's nice. So, you making any money? you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I swear to you, we were making peanuts. Okay? And I realized then, anyone would give their, they'd give it all just to have that gold record on the wall. But he was right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there you go. About the balance of the business side of things. I wasn't Meatloaf. I didn't own Meatloaf. Of course, I deserved the gold record. But
sure.
Was I making money from it? No.
Yeah.
But as my, fearless manager, lawyer friend, who is someone I highly respect, has always told me, all those things, as long as you, kind of see the big picture and manage things the right way moving forward, then they are all part of what can bring you money.
Yeah.
They may not have bought you a car or a home, but when you manage the results of what you accomplished properly, you will. Have.
No, it's like when I always think about that when someone does something, like if you were to just suddenly, write a song or play something, I'm always thinking about that's 40 years of picking up that guitar that led you to that. That's not this morning, this transactional. You know, it's experiential.
Exactly.
So yeah, I totally get that, man. Talk about your granddad. You're originally from Brooklyn. What was your childhood like?
Well, Brooklyn certainly was, I don't have too much. It was your typical New York thing, so you learn to be a New Yorker. The Manhattan's the big city, but you're in one of the boroughs, so it's right there, I did enjoy growing up there because I did feel like I was always close to one of the, iconic places in the world, you know what I mean, the Big Apple. And I think it did help form a lot of my hardworking kind of personality, and I was always in awe of the giant buildings there, and I was able to see all the artists that I wanted to see. I got to see Cream and The Who and Hendrix. I played the Garden. I mean, of course, the first time I played the Garden with Kiss, I was out of my mind.
Was that weird? Yeah.
I saw my heroes there, and so I was always very proud of being, from New York. And every time I go back, I have really good memories. I can't say I'd want to live there. Yeah, if I had, if I was a multimillionaire, maybe I'd like a place on the Upper West Side, sure.
Yeah.
But it's really an amazing city. So it afforded a lot of opportunities for me. So I did like that. I probably wouldn't have even have had some of the opportunities I got without some of that, being born there, so
Sure.
My brother being very aggressive and meeting a lot of stars and working, and then turning me on to some of the things. And then of course the Kiss audition and blah, 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 so it was a good thing for my career. There's no doubt. It was time to leave though. Once, it was getting very expensive. Yeah, I was in Kiss, but Gene already moved out to LA. Paul kept flirting with LA and maybe moving out there. So I moved to Los Angeles.
Those guys are from the Bronx, right?
Well, actually, Gene and Paul more Queens. I mean, Gene was born in Israel, but Paul was from Queens. I believe Ace was from the Bronx.
Right.
Peter, I'm uncertain about, but I know he was in New York. Yeah.
Can I tell you something really funny? This is really weird. In high school, or maybe even like middle school, there was a rumor going around, and like a bunch of people said, "Hey, I've got Ace Frehley's phone number." I don't even know why I remember this, and because he was in the Bronx, and it was like a whole thing. Where'd you get this number? Oh, I don't know, but it's Ace's number. Where does he live? He lives over in Pelham Parkway.
If they called it, then he would have changed his number.
It was just like, I don't even know why I remember that. It was so weird.
How about I remember one time being home, and my brother got to do a record with Lou Reed because we met him once on tour with that George McRae guy.
Yeah.
And somehow their paths crossed, and Lou remembered him, and Bob played lead guitar on Coney Island Baby, a really good record from Lou actually. And he calls the house. Okay, I answer the phone.
Lou Reed here.
I could not believe I'm talking to Lou Reed.
Holy
He's
shit.
not here. Okay. Well, can you tell him to call me? And he gives me a number. Then he calls me back like 5 seconds after I hang up and says, "Don't give that number to anybody." I said, "Don't worry, I won't." You know what I mean? So
that's funny.
There you go. That's how it used to go back.
Yeah, that's really funny. What kind of work did your mom and dad do?
My mother was mostly, the mom, but when we got older, she started to do part-time work, bookkeeping. She was always very good with that. And she was able to work locally in Queens. And my dad, which I never really totally understood what he did until I was a little older. And then I was able to, by the time I could drive, and I went to visit him. He was a quality control guy that worked actually for the government, but why I didn't understand it was I knew he didn't work at a government facility, but what he did was he worked at the plants that the people, the companies that the government would hire with a big contract to do a system for an aircraft carrier or to do something for NASA.
Wow.
So in some ways, it took me going to one of the plants to see what he did and realize the respect that he had there for me to really get a full picture of my dad. Before that, he just went to work somewhere, and I didn't really understand it, But I think a lot of my kind of desire to do things right and do them the best way I could came from him, and I'm grateful for that. Because
good work.
He would not sign off on the $1 million contract that the government hired them to do unless the product was exactly what it should be. And I know that my dad didn't screw around with that, if you get what I mean.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, that was the days where there was all those positions were, kickbacks, a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I totally get it.
We would have lived a lot better, okay? If that was the case,
No, but I know what you're saying though, because I had a buddy who was living way above his means, and that was what the rumor was, and his dad had a similar job like that.
No, fortunately, everything he worked on and approved did work. I know there were systems for aircraft carriers. I remember seeing he had this box in the house of a lot of books and reports and things related to it. It was really, I still have it. It was so fascinating to get. And then the funniest thing is to actually have it was I don't know if it was the final one or just a prototype of a urine bag for an astronaut. Okay?
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, because to think that, everything that they use that. Well, who's manufacturing it? NASA doesn't make it; they get somebody to make it.
Government contractor. Yeah.
So to think that my dad was involved with something like that is rather weird. And the fact that I have it is even more weird.
No, it's a token from your dad. It's not weird at all. No, I totally get that.
No, I think it's great. And,
it's really cool.
The kind of I forget what they call them, but they'd give him excellence award type things, for his dedication to the government and everything like that. And that fortunately has given my mom a very comfortable, there's always a pension when you work for the government, and thankfully, that's why she's been able to get good health care, into her 90s now. Okay?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Your mom's that old, man. Oh, that's wonderful.
If you asked her today, how's it feel being that old, she'd tell you terrible. Okay. But yes, it is awesome.
Hey, I was wondering, everybody pays tuition in our careers, and I was wondering if you'd be kind enough to maybe share one or two mistakes you might have made along the journey and what lessons you have learned from those mistakes.
Well, there are some times when I might have, opened my mouth about something that I realized I shouldn't have said anything, So, you should always be careful, no matter how frustrated you are. Don't say something in front of, people that are actually employing you that when you're emotionally charged to something, it's much better to walk away, calm yourself. And there's probably a reasonable way that you can present what's your issue is. But just speaking in that moment that you're not, when you're pissed off, is never going to work in your favor. Okay. Unless you're ready to say and goodbye, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's a big lesson. And as much as I sounded like the ultimate easy guy to get along with and work with, no, there's times it's, I've gotten emotionally charged and had I couldn't process something well. There are. So be careful with that. And I guess the other thing, that first time you realize that you went to a gig and you say, "Oh, I'm not going to break a string tonight because I forgot my strings." That's the night you'll break the strings. Okay. So I remember doing an article for Premiere Magazine once years ago, and it was all about being prepared in the studio. You can never have enough of whatever those things are. Okay.
Yeah. Never
assume that it will be okay. They'll have enough cables. They'll have enough, that you have enough guitar picks, that you have enough anything, So it's really smart in the professional world to have all these backups, you know what I mean? And as we talked about earlier, be on time, don't act like the world revolves around you. I get nuts if a shuttle bus is late to the airport, you know what I mean? I'm going, why can't this guy do his job, his job, So just those things, you got to be prepared and watch your mouth. Those are my two.
Be prepared and watch your mouth. I think it's good advice, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you 3 more questions because I want to be sensitive to time.
Yes.
Tell me something about yourself people would either be surprised to hear or might find a little odd.
Well, I totally love lots of music, and there were many artists that I think they'd be surprised that I have every release and listen to quite a bit. Like thinking back a few years back, I remember I used to listen a lot to, love Joni Mitchell. Okay. Again, very far cry from Kiss or anything like that, And I even enjoy bands like Steely Dan and all that. And I used to really enjoy some of the fusion groups, like Weather Report that I mentioned. Lately, though, I've been totally obsessed with Frank Sinatra. I mean, it's just like I'm out of my mind. There isn't a day I don't listen to some of his classic stuff. I'm especially a big fan of his Capitol years, from the 50s, 53 to about 61. I mean, he did great stuff on his Reprise label, too. Past 68, I get a little bit, his voice changed, the material, he wasn't sure how he fit in. But I consider him the greatest artist of all time. And I've even learned a lot about, the music business, too, reading and learning things about his incredible career, okay? I even like the early stuff with the big band era, too, okay? So nobody can touch him with his talent, his phrasing, the appreciation he had of working with the best musicians, always, And it's my desire to, delve into it even more, even though I'm pretty far into it. Okay, he's born on my birthday, so I don't know if he's in some weird way possessing me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, man, this is
12/12. Okay.
Yeah, you're part of maybe this is Frank Sinatra's second life or part of it.
Yeah. And it's funny. There was some fan that wrote me, "Oh, I'm really stuck in a rut with my guitar playing. What do I do? What do I do?" And I just said, listen to Frank Sinatra. He said, like, you're not being serious, are you?
Awesome.
I said, no, I'm being serious because there's nobody that phrases, I look at lead playing as vocal lines. Okay?
Right.
So there's nobody that phrases better than him vocally, okay? And all the great singers, read what people say about him. And it's all true, So I meant it. No, I didn't mean, that you're supposed to put down the guitar and become a lead singer. But I remember having a terrific jazz teacher. He used to tell me, listen to sax players, don't listen to guitar players. You get what I mean? So,
sure.
So the phrasing and the joy I get from there's something about the tone of his voice that just blows me away, and it just connects me. And then he did choose, especially for probably a dozen albums, some of the best songs ever written. When you're talking about the Great American Songbook, rather, of standards. These are songs that were written, many of them were written way before him too, but these are songs that are just, that will never go away, And there's something about that swing music too, for the upbeat stuff, and there's something about his sad, more tender when he was going through terrible pain over, his love life with Ava Gardner and all the issues he had. And then that whole Rat Pack era is amazing. I know Richie Sambora is totally obsessed with that stuff too. I'm not the only rock musician that just loves that era, okay? So that's one thing that I don't know a lot of people know, though I've posted a few things about Frank recently, but yeah, I love that stuff.
Very cool.
Another thing is, I guess I'm very meticulous about a lot of things in my life, and I do like to collect me, which is why, I am seeking out always, things that are from my era, and I'm pretty fascinated with that. And
you like to collect what?
Things about my stuff, my career that I haven't seen.
Yeah, that's probably pretty interesting.
And I've also made the commitment that I don't really want to ever use my social media in a negative way. I see it. I do complain about certain things in life and my life. I think the way people wear their hearts on their sleeve, socially, I think is a little odd. Okay, and it's not for me. But it's not that I judge the people that do it, but I want if someone's going to see something from me, it to be something more uplifting. And so if on occasion I might say something about an airline because everyone's been in that situation. But
sure.
I try not to. And usually the airline, you can tweet and they'll respond. It's so funny. Especially when they see that I have a verified Twitter address, with maybe 60, 70,000 people are reading it. They suddenly Delta goes, "We're really sorry. I see your plane is finally on its way." So it's kind of funny. So I use the platform in that way, but I'm not using it as a pulpit, and I always give credit where credit's due, and I realize nothing's perfect in life. You got to be patient about stuff like that. So. Those are some of the little things about me.
Cool, man. And I thank you for not using your social media as a pulpit because God knows enough people do. Mm-hmm. You mentioned your wife earlier. How long have you been married?
Well, we've been married 4 years now. She's wonderful. She's my best friend. She's, I I know she's got my back. I got her back, and she's really talented too. We have so many similar, loves. Of course, she was a Kiss fan, even though it's not exactly how we met. But she's just a tremendous person. I have super respect for her. And what's great about the relationship is the fact that, some of the things that she doesn't excel in, I do, and many of the things that I don't excel in, she does. So there's that great partnership, and I was very blessed to meet her. And I didn't know, it wasn't love at first sight. I was drawn to her. I was kind of like curious about her, but I didn't know until I spent time with her that what an incredible, beautiful, soul she has. And it's been a wonderful almost 9 years now that I've known her, and 4 years of marriage. Man,
congratulations! You sound real happy.
Yeah, good for you. And I'm going to do more music stuff with her too, which is great because she's so talented. Her voice I melt, totally. Hey, at that New York Expo last year, we did some of the Kiss stuff because her range is fine to do Turn On the Night or or rather Who Wants to Be Lonely and Crazy Nights and stuff like that. So I don't think we did Turn On the Night, but you know what I mean, that era of Kiss.
Sure.
Okay? So we really the fans loved it, So we're going to do more of that. We put out a song last year. We'll do more in the future. And I love that. Of course, she was always really into, some of the standards and Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. So she laughs at she loves Dean and I love Frank. So it's pretty comical.
There you go. You have any kids from prior marriages?
No, I never had any kids. Lisa has a wonderful son who's 30 now and very talented, and we get along great. And he's a big Kiss fan too, actually. Good. So that's always fun. He loves Disneyland, so I finally got into the whole Disneyland thing. And no, my kids, I guess, have been my guitars and all.
A lot less stress, trust me.
Yeah.
Hey, man, final question, and I really appreciate your time. What's been the biggest change in your personality, Bruce, over the last 10 years, and how much of this change has been deliberate, and how much is just a normal part of aging, you think?
Well, I do agree that as you get older, you do get more. You probably learn because you have bumped into that wall a few times. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, people have like really bad drug or alcohol problems. They don't even know they banged into the wall. They're regretful in the morning and then they can't help it. So. But for me, with my eyes and my being not someone that had any of those kind of like crutches, everything's crystal clear to me when I've done really dumb things. So I've definitely matured. Okay, I think I wasn't very, I wouldn't say I was immature years ago, but I sometimes didn't assess the situation the best way. So I think what comes with maturity is understanding, I've been down that road, and I see why people get on it, but like, oh boy, it's you're going to fall off a cliff. You just know, so you don't go there anymore. So that's what I've learned from maturity, and I also do want to enjoy every day, which is why I know the things that are can eat me up, so I try to avoid them, and I do try to do the things that I enjoy. I know my mother's struggling with getting very, very old, okay? And I was there last week to see her, and I said, Ma, you love music, you don't want, I could bring like something you could listen to, of course she's entertained by the television, aren't we all kind of, right? I even was looking for a music channel on the television, and she doesn't have that plan at the, at the nursing place that she's at, even though it's a wonderful place. And I just said, don't you want to like listen to music, And she was like, no, it's okay. It's all right. I enjoy the TV. I'm not going to force her, but I know that I will never live a day without listening to some music I love because it just makes me feel good, and that's, I also hope obviously that I could always play music, and perform it. So all this is, very exciting. I still get the thrill of buying a guitar. I still get the thrill of going on stage, even though I still get nervous. Okay. I still have that thrill of meeting people, and I'm actually a shy person, and then this times I'm remarkably engaging because in some way I'm trying to just communicate with people and make them laugh or make them feel good. Most of the time I'm way kinder than I sometimes have been embarrassed that I wasn't, if you get what I mean. So I make a point at a hotel, I'm going to be really nice to the maids, because that's not the best job in the world, is it? You know? And that's why I can't stand people who are condescending and egotistical and rude and don't appreciate everybody and everyone in all walks of life, because we all need each other to do what we do best, and I show respect to people. That's stuff I've learned that I'm so aware of. Now, I go to the dressing room and there's no water and there's no, towel for me, and the food isn't ready yet. You'll see the side of Bruce you don't want to see. I get cranky, I get upset. But instead of being in that moment, then I'm like, oh, well, where's the production office? Who can I speak to? Who can help us? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how you process that, instead of throwing a temper tantrum, which I've done. And you can't always justify just because you're in a situation that things are going to be the way you want them to be, but how can I, that's why I try to always, I can give that slam email to somebody, but I'd rather give that, how can you help me? How can we make this work? You know what I mean? Work with me, I don't want to work against you. That's why I think I should, be a judge or a politician, but I like music too much. I'm not going to go do that.
Well, you said earlier something about you realize the world doesn't revolve around you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's pretty key to being. You got to balance
everything in life, and certainly in every situation. I think just like that person, you may have bought something and then you realize, oh, there was something wrong with it. Well, did they know it? You got to present it, in a fashion like, this is what I got. What can we do? You know what I mean? Sure. Instead of like, I'm reporting you. You know what I mean? So I find that I do get much better results in that way. And I think if everybody was a little kinder, a little more patient, and a little more understanding with each other, that some of the bad situations that just come up because life isn't perfect may work out better. And there it is. I'm asking Gene to go to the vault because it's at Capitol Records, and Lisa says, oh, that'd be great. I've never been to Capitol Records. I hope Gene, says it's okay to go. So something innocent like that, and then it turns into, of course you're invited. Come down. And then his guy that's working with him, tells me, come at 6 because Ace is going to be there earlier. And I'm like, okay, great. And then all of a sudden I'm jamming with them. You know what I mean? So It came from an honest place. It wasn't like I want the photo with Gene. I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. And then it becomes an internet sensation. So you see how, you put it out in the universe that you have a real enthusiasm for something and you're excited for somebody else. But then in the end, it's it pays you back, many, many, many times.
That's for sure, man. I would have been surprised that you said you're shy. Maybe a little reserved, but not. You certainly haven't been. Every time I've spoken to you, you've been real upfront, not shy at all.
But sometimes I'm a little socially uncomfortable. Sometimes.
Gotcha.
And I realize the anxiety sometimes winds up turning into just me trying to, engage people in a silly way. And that what works for me. But I'll like at the gig that we did this weekend in Atlantic City, I had various people that are in my life, come visit for different reasons, and it just, I realized, why am I so exhausted today? Oh, well, not only did I do a job and just fly from, LA the day before, but I was also entertaining my friends, and I had to take care of some things. So it takes a lot out of me, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure, it does.
Just like I don't want the interview to go for 3 hours, even though I could talk 3 hours. I realize I got other things I got to take care of, but I'm hoping you enjoyed our chat.
No, man, I really appreciate everything. I can't thank you enough for your time. Thank you for being flexible with the changing, and I really appreciate that.
No problem. Yeah.
Let me just tell people where they could find you online. First of all, you can go to Bruce's website, kulick.net, Kulick.net, and he's also go to his official Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's Bruce Kulick, again, Kulick. If I have to spell Bruce, I can't help you.
Yes.
Man, thank you very much. You've been real generous with everything. I wish you the best of everything, and I hope to run into you some point in time. Could sit and have a coffee or a lunch or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
You do.
For having me. Sure.
Thank you. Everybody, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Thanks again to Bruce Kulick for spending his time with us and for being so transparent and generous and sharing with the stories. Go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get notified of future episodes, along with early product announcements and discounts. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice. So be nice, go play your guitar, and have some fun. That's what it's all about. Till next time, peace and love, and I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.